The Last Ship, Season 5, Episode 1. It's finally coming to an end. Um, alright, so it starts off by letting us know it's been 3 years since the famine. So life is starting to finally return to some kind of normalcy. And the Navy is about to release its first fleet since all of this nonsense began. Tom has once again retired and he's teaching students at Annapolis. This is something with all his knowledge, would be good for him to pass on to the young, but it's so clear that he's restless. A student in his class named Swain suggests that the next attack would be cyber. And because this is the last ship and it's never been subtle, of course, that's what the next attack is, right? That's what everyone is worried about these days anyway, is cyber activities. So it sort of figures that this is what the last ship would choose to go with. Uh, so I think the big thing here is as far as Chandler is like, what is he now when he doesn't have the command of the Nathan James? In fact, he actually doesn't even have his kids because I guess the writers finally gave up on this idea of presenting him as a family man because if you do that, then of course you have to deal with the kids. So rather than even just shoving them out of the way on a Greek island like they did last year, which was so ridiculous because Tom forgot all about his kids the whole time he was battling. This year they've just given up with that, and Tom and Ashley moved out, and who the hell knows what, where, why, but they're gone. So I'm betting that's going to be the only reference we see to Tom's kids. Um, so, what is Tom? I think he is what we've always known him to be. He is the captain of the Nathan James, and that's pretty much his identity, and everything else comes secondary. I mean, he guilts himself every once in a while over his family, but he wants to be in the middle of action. He wants to be leading things. He is the person in charge, the go to guy. He wants to see all the angles. This is where Tom lives. And I don't know how long since he's retired, but it's clear that this is not where he wants to live. This is further cemented by the fact that, to welcome the fleet, Tom goes back and, he sees his old blue Navy fatigues and just, it's all a case of yesteryear, really, for him. And you can see that this sort of makes him very sad. Everyone else, however, is continuing. Slattery is now the captain of the Michener, which was named after the president that was executed. I actually like seeing him on his own ship, but because this is um, basically the Tom show, we know that they're going to end up in a position where they're in the same ship again, and Tom will be in charge and Slattery will be following. So this is all like a really temporary sort of setup for him. Sasha, Danny, and Azima. Lord have mercy, Azima. Whew. Anyway, they're in Panama City, and they're trying to get tickets to an event because they want to meet someone named El Presidente. They're not actually going to take him out, which is what it looked like at first, but they want to show him the hole in his security and how quickly things could get wrong, and they want to get him on side with the U.S. So, of course, this is when El Presidente is what? Assassinated. And who gets blamed for it? Why, Sasha, Danny, and Azima, and this puts them on the run. This essentially puts them in place, as we know, to deal with where the threat is. That's why they're there. That's why the writers put them on the run. Again, the show is nothing but completely on the nose. And then, of course, the cyber attack does happen, and it's launched from a Colombian cafe. I mean, just like how more modern can you be? So this knocks out everything. When you think about how dependent our lives have become on technology, this is a really, really bad thing. And then the attack happens. It's specifically set up to look exactly like Pearl Harbor. So you don't have to use your imagination here. Once again, last ship, boom, right on the nose. So, we get to watch as this big battle goes off, and Slattery gets behind the big guns, and people are running, things are exploding, people are dying. They spent some money. They spent some money on this episode. And unfortunately, it looks like Rios was shot, and it looks pretty much like Rios is dead. Of course, the James is still there, but it's not actually in port yet. It was further out at sea, so the James remained unharmed. Once again, this makes the Nathan James what? The last ship in the fleet. Love the subtlety. Love the subtlety. Um, so this means that once again, the U.S. is at war, and the only ship that can save the world is the Nathan James. From Central America, we find out the big guy is Gustavo, and he sends a message to the Americans. He's tired of playing second fiddle. He's tired of being treated like a vassal state. Um, Central America wants a seat at the table, and he warns the U.S. if they fight, they will lose. Buck and Slattery head off to the Nation James, and Chandler stays behind to command the fleet. That is essentially a wrap of what happened in this particular episode. But I couldn't end this without saying I'm rooting for Gustavo. I really am, and I know this is not what the writers intended. The entire purpose of this show is to inspire feelings of American patriotism, of manifest destiny, of Americans saving the world, Americans with their bravado are loud and capable and strong and fierce and all of these things, that fill the American imagination, to ignore many ways in which they are quite frankly mediocre. Sorry, Americans. Truth hurts. So anyway, this is why this attack was meant to look like Pearl Harbor, right? Because they were wrongly attacked, and of course, the brown people are the bad people. This only ever works if you ignore the way the U.S. has treated South and Central America over the years, and it has been god awful, god awful. you know, um, all of the economic exploitation, the war on drugs, the various factions that they have funded, the wars that they have funded, the intervention in local politics, the extrajudicial killings, like the list of wrong is so goddamn long. I don't see how anyone in their right mind would be like, yay, go America. I'm with the brown people. I am totally with the brown people on this one. And I'm like, get yours while you can. Um, you know, it kind of reminds me, watching this, oddly enough, I couldn't help but think of Jean Chrétien, who's a former Prime Minister of Canada. And right after 9/11, he said, um, you have to be kinder. When you're on the top, you have to be kinder to the people below you. Yeah, and it was super controversial at the time, but it's so very, very true. How do you get to be the top of the food chain in the system that we have? You get there by oppressing people, by colonizing people, you know. Um, and I find myself watching this, and it makes me angry because I know that there are going to be people who are just going to watch this and be completely oblivious to the history, to the colonization, just basically to all the harm done, and be ready to jump on another tour of the Nathan James and oorah, without any kind of critical thought. This is exactly what the writers are counting on, and this is exactly why we shouldn't do it. You know, this is exactly why we need to watch television critically. This is an actually harmful message that they're trying to wrap up in patriotism and get you to jump along and pretend that the past doesn't exist, or what's currently going on right now, doesn't matter. It's unimportant. So yeah, I guess it's fair to say this episode made me mad. I hope it made you mad watching it too. I hope you'll watch this season and not root for Tom Chandler to become hero of the world for once. I hope you'll watch this episode and root for the brown people. Because you know what? They have it coming. Root for the brown people. They've been through enough. All right. That's it for me on episode 1. I'm sure I'll be ranty for episode 2.